Hi lovers, this video is a long overdue, long time coming. You guys have been harassing me to do an HBO Insecure response video, and here it is. It took me a while because I was like waiting to the last minute to sign up for HBO Go because I was like,
I don't want to get trapped and sucked into another like monthly fee, another streaming service.
But you know what I mean? Like after watching the season over the weekend, I'm definitely sucked in because they play this epic trailer of all their content that's going to be coming out soon, and I'm like, I don't want to not watch that, which is why of course she has a season 3, because we showed up and we have to keep showing up. So I'm proud to make this video in support of all that Issa stands for and represents. And with that being said, I wanted to share 5 major lessons that I learned from watching HBO's Insecure and why I learned these lessons. And then I want to break one of my rules because that's just, you know what I mean? I got to be honest, like I'm not a perfect person, so I'm going to break one of my 5 rules that I learned. And then I'm going to give some gripes that I had with the series that in season 3, because there will be a season 3, I would hope would be acted out differently. Here's the 5 things that I learned from watching HBO Insecure season 2. Number 1, don't expect people to look out for you when you don't look out for yourself. Number 2, if you're going to get intimate with somebody, you should at least believe they're not a psychopathic, devil-worshipping pedophile who's out to get you. Number 3, don't you ever movie trivia time. What movie is that from? Don't you ever give out advice unless somebody asks. And even if someone does ask, just probably don't. 4, effective communication has nothing to do with what you say and everything to do with what you want someone to understand. And number 5, our obsessive connection with love and fidelity is toxic, and I'm just like, I'm like over brimming with irritation about it. So I want to hit on all those points and then talk about, a couple things that I want to see change for next season. The sex scenes and the representation of female sexual pleasure. Obviously condom usage, which she brought up already. The female light-skinned character and like why I really can't stand her. And then the representation obviously on open relationships and my thoughts and suggestions on that. Let's start off with the things that I did learn. Number 1, don't expect people to look out for you when you didn't take the time to look out for your own best interests. I think that a lot of the characters do this all of the time. They don't express their boundaries, they don't express what their intentions are, and then magically just hope that the other individual is going to behave in exact accordance with what they're imagining in their head. And if they don't, they believe that person is bad, out to get them, or negative. Particularly with the characters Issa and Molly, they get into relationships, they feel apprehension around them, they may express that apprehension, but they don't really set clear boundaries to protect themselves. And the second that somebody crosses that boundary, they flip out on them. Prime example of that is the time when Issa gave oral sex. I can't remember what this dude's name is, the producer, and he essentially came in her face. Like, there's a bit of semantics things with that. Like, somebody can't really come in your face unless your face is right there. Like, you should pretty much be covering the explosive part. And if you know it's about to explode and you get up, you probably shouldn't stay super close unless that's not what you wanted. And I didn't see his hand forcing her face. That scene was just really confusing to me because 1, you didn't express that person like, look, I'm about to do something for you, but I don't want to swallow, and you know what I mean? Like, let's just try, like, come in your hands if you can. You could say it in a sexy way, but if you're gonna try something outside of your comfort zone, set up boundaries so that that person doesn't drive off a cliff without even really knowing it. Don't expect for people to know how to treat you if you don't educate them or if you haven't educated yourself to begin with. Number 2, if you're gonna be intimate with somebody, just trust they're a good person. If you can't give somebody space to be imperfect, don't bring them into your space at all. I think that's what the key message of that is. And again, you see so many examples of that wherein that you're having these intimate moments. Maybe you're sharing your body with this person or you're sharing your time, but when they do something that's slightly out of character, you jump to the worst case scenario. So that conversation with the producer and Issa, when he tried to make a well-meaning joke, well, you know what I mean, I guess we're even now because I, hurt you by jizzing in your face, and then you hurt me by using me as a pawn in your relationship when it was on the rocks. He was trying to make it like well-meaning and light, but because in the back of Issa, not the human being, but the character's mind, she was like,
this guy's out to get me, he's the worst for me, he's trying to embarrass me.
Don't you ever give advice. And I fail at this all the time, and I have to remind myself 18,000 times a day. Even as I do counseling with people, which I do counselings on Sundays. If you don't know about that, go in the info box below. But whenever I do counseling with people, I'm very cognizant to like repeat to them, what are you asking me? What specifically are you looking for? What do you want me to respond to? Because I know we just a lot of times want to be heard. We just want to express ourselves out loud. We want to be validated in how we feel. We don't necessarily want to hear the, well, if I was in your shoes, here's what I think you should do. One, it can be insulting sometimes because like, duh, like we haven't thought of, this is our life. We've spent more time than 6 seconds on this issue. So whatever like thing you're gonna come up with before, just recognize I probably already thought about it. Unless of course you are like a licensed professional and you're offering like a radically different perspective. But when it comes to our friends, especially when we divulge stuff, most of the times we just want to talk. And unless someone really like pins you in a corner and says, no, like what is your advice? Like what is your perspective? Just really hold off. And even when they do, and if they kind of roundabout do, find a way to make that like, you don't want to put yourself in this place where you can't do a U-turn. Effective communication ain't got nothing to do with what you say and has everything to do with what you want that person to understand. So many times in the show, I'm like, oh man, like I get where you were going with that, but just the route that you took was just like a lot of traffic for no reason. Like you could have just gotten on the 10 and been there 6 minutes faster and like at the open bar. When Issa's car broke down and the producer came to like help her out, you know, and pick her up and give her a ride because she was stuck, because they were friends first. She took that time to be like, oh, just so you know, this is not anything. We're both seeing other people. Just want to make this clear because this is kind of weird, you being nice to me. It was just a moment that discouraged that person from doing something loving. And I don't think that kind of act has to be contingent on sexual exclusivity. So I just thought throwing that in there, even though it's important to say, I think she said something really beautiful afterwards, which was, you know, we got into this issue before because I wasn't upfront. I don't want to do that again. And I thought that was a really great thing and tidbit. I just thought that the timing and the way just didn't serve anybody or serve anything. And so oftentimes we think when we feel something, we have to say something. But if you gave yourself 10 seconds more, there probably is a way that you can package it that helps someone to understand, you know, what it is that you're trying to say without being offended by the timing or the way that you said it. And the whole point of Insecure is that they're awkward and they don't know how to word things properly. And I get that that's it. But it's just one of those lessons that I'm like, oh, I know I am Captain Foot in Mouth. Like I have size 10s and that is like God's way of being like, you can't choke to death at least. Your foot will be in your mouth, but it's just too large for you to die on, because if I had a size 5 foot, I wouldn't be here right now. So again, this is a lesson that like I had to like learn from myself, and watching it play out on screen was a good reminder that like, work on that a lot, Shannon. Finally, I'm so over hearing about how relationships dissolved because somebody cheated. And I guess in the line of work that I do, I hear about it probably more frequently than the average person. I can't tell you the amount of people who are like, I was in this relationship, it was doing really well, I really loved that person, I trusted them, I thought I was gonna marry them, and then you won't believe what happened. And we can all finish the sentence. They stepped out. Ooh, big shocker, big shocker. It happens. This obsession with there's only one way to experience love. And if somebody betrays this very narrow perspective on what love is, in a world where we're constantly tempted by connections and by lust and by seductiveness and by emotional energies, to expect that the only way to prove if somebody really loves you is if they deny all of those instincts all of the time. Mind you, I'm not the best person to like, you know, tote this to, because I just don't put fidelity on like a very big pedestal. But I see so many people who good relationships are destroyed, or their concept of being love is destroyed, and people minimize all that they experience. Like, you know, Lawrence and Issa, a 5-year relationship thrown out the window because of an instance, to act as if all of that is meaningless because, again, we've been taught that if you truly love somebody, you will not have eyes for anybody else. And so if you do have eyes for somebody else, that ultimately must mean it really wasn't love. It's just so toxic. You know what I mean? Like, most of you guys who are hardcore monogamists, you're not doing it right. The founders of monogamy would look at you and be like, what is that? because monogamy is supposed to be one person for life. It's supposed to be you save yourself until marriage and you marry that person and then you give yourself to them, and when they die you become a widow and game over for you. That's what monogamy is. So the rest of you guys who are doing this one person at a time track, and if that one person doesn't make me their one person, I guess they're the wrong person, so I switch to a new person who becomes my new one person thing. And I think that perpetuating this notion that that's the only way to experience love or to validate love is very toxic. So I think that Lawrence and Issa deserve each other. I think that they have a lot to learn from each other still. I think there's still emotional, there's an emotional tie to, there's something still magical about their relationship that I wish that they could overlook this singular instance of lack of discipline. All right, now for the part that nobody asked for, nobody cared for, and I shouldn't be including in here because it's just, again, betraying one of the lessons that I learned just a couple minutes ago and I said quite clearly, but I'm aware that I'm being a hypocrite right now, so I think it makes it better. Of course, it makes it way worse. Nonetheless, I want to give advice to Insecure Season 3 on a few things that I think could be tweaked from a completely unnecessary perspective. Number one, the sex scenes. Now, as somebody who champions female sexual pleasure and loves to tell the story of the inclusive ways in which people can experience pleasure, I was disappointed to see the standard penetrative sex only scenes and women orgasming from bathroom sex, you know, scenes. It's just like, there was never any talk of oral or clitoral play. There's very few times that there is even foreplay. It's just like this hard penetration and the women just want it and crave it. And I thought that, like, that happens all the time in movies. That's just the standard. I was somebody who was damaged from that growing up because I saw sex in a very singular way. I thought my body was broken because I didn't experience orgasm how I saw in porn or how I saw in movies. And it took a long time of educating myself to realize that, oh, like, it's a very heteronormative view of how women experience pleasure that is depicted in the media, and it's not accurate. Condom usage, I don't want to beat this over the head because Issa already addressed this, and I did see, because she mentioned that there are condom wrappers, I did see them in my peripheral, but for certain scenes, like when Lawrence comes over and they just had this really rushed, weird sex scene, you don't see him slipping anything on, and so I just think that reinforcing the importance of condoms, especially for the Black community, is extremely important, and I'm looking forward to seeing that in Season 3 because I do know that she has already addressed that. The female light-skinned character, Amanda Seales, in real life, I've been a great fan of her for a long time. She's funny, she's cool, she is woke, she's irreverent, she's interesting, she's accomplished. I love Amanda Seales, but damn, that character. Who would be friends with that person? Like, if I'm gonna write a character in there and they're gonna be like the singular depiction of, you know, of light-skinned women, have at least one redeemable quality about her. Like, she's snobby, she's snooty, she's like higher than thou, she's bougie, she's just not funny, she's not cool, she's not hella generous, she's not giving out great advice. Like, there's zero redeemable qualities about her, and I'm like not even sure why you guys are friends with her. So that could just be a me thing, but I just feel like maybe just give her something. She buys the alcohol all the time. Okay, cool, I get it. And finally, I want to give advice about the open relationship aspect of the show. I know it's an area a lot of people were like, what do you think? What do you think? Because I'm queen of the open relationship land, apparently, but I'm happy to be queen of that. It's a nice place. You guys should see it in the summertime. But I think that, thank you, first and foremost, representation is important, and I loved the first episode it was introduced and the mature way that it was described. I freaking super love the wind downs where she just sat on a couch and like talked candidly about the episode, and like those were just really eye-opening, and I loved what the character Dro, the human being, whatever his real name is, said about the open relationship that he was actually in. That really actually spoke to me and my open relationship, and it really just more so being about personal choice and freedom and the space to not be a bad person if you experience attraction outside of your relationship. And that just really was, you know, it was very, very affirming to hear someone else say. Now, in regards to the show, I understand it's entertainment and all of that, but I just felt that the dinner party scene was a lot. And don't get me wrong, all things exist in all places, and there are some open relationships where that would be cool, or that is like part of the package of what being open means. I just feel like that was like a really small minority of people. What we saw was something that was like similar to cuckolding, and cuckolding is when you enjoy seeing your partner have sex with other people. Maybe you enjoy listening to your partner have sex with other people, but it turns you on, and it like is a part of the two of your sex play, your arousal pattern, to engage with another person and not be a part of it. And so cuckolding is when like you just watch somebody dominate your wife, or you watch somebody, you know, make your husband go crazy, and you just watch. So that's what that kind of felt like to me, you know, to have your partner with you at a dinner party, you know, sitting down, exchanging stories, being all coupley in one moment, and in the next banging somebody against the bathroom stall while you're like 10 feet away, and everybody that you both know and have a respectful relationship with, because you're celebrating someone's birthday, is also 10 steps away. That just like felt like more of a sex game than an actual reflection of how open relationships should be structured, because I do believe that you have to prioritize respect. You have to prioritize each other's reputation, and you have to control yourself. And I just felt like that wouldn't, for me, fly. And I think that people who do subscribe to cuckolding, maybe that felt very affirming to them to watch that. But I think for a lot of people in open relationships, it was like an exaggeration of people's deepest fears of what they mean, and it was affirming in the wrong way. It's kind of like if a show did a feature about somebody who was into fetishes. And people who are into fetishes, essentially, one of their primary attractions isn't about people, it's more scenarios or objects. And there's many fetishes. There's infantilism, where you have a fetish of dressing up like a baby, and there's clown sex, or there's water sports, like there's, you know, BDSM, of course. And one of the fetishes is coprophilia, which is like a desire to interact with feces, poo. So if you had a TV show, you're like, we're gonna put a fetish dude in there, it's great, and it's great representation, and I'm sure the community is happy for it. But if you made that dude a coprophilia dude, it's like, And I know a lot of couples who are open, married couples who are open. I don't know a lot of people who would be gung-ho about their partner doing that while you guys were engaged in a dinner party for someone's birthday amongst mutual friends while you were right there. That I just... Baby, what is that? All right, that's my cue to stop talking because my house is haunted now, and that's probably because I broke my own rule. Now, I didn't get asked, what, Shannon, do you want seen different in season 3? But I want to ask you, so it's okay for you to do in the comment section below, because I'm curious. You know, are there some things that you guys are like, oh, this is where I'd kind of like to go for season 3, or things I found, you know, not my favorite about season 2? And on the flip side of that, what did you learn from season 2? Like, best of all, where did you see yourself in surprising places? What lessons did you draw from it? What were your like, oh my gosh, to die for moments? And then also, if we want to have a little love fest just for Issa and her incredibleness and her accomplishment and how far she has taken the YouTube community and the women of color community and minorities representation on TV, especially on a massive cable network like HBO. Thank you. I appreciate you. I value you. You've given us such a space to think about and see ourselves, and not just see ourselves literally, but then also in a very conscious, thoughtful way. I saw parts of myself, you know, physically on the screen, but I also saw parts of myself mentally that I've never really seen represented before. And I think you did an incredible job. And I know it's a fiction show and it's, you know, it's not real, but there were a lot of really, really beautiful and telling moments there. So girl, hats off, toes off. Like I said, panties off for you. You did the damn thing. And I will definitely be watching season 3 when it first comes out, because I am now an HBOer for damn life. Y'all got me.
I get it, girl. Oh yeah, I get it, girl. Yeah, I get it, girl. Oh, and if you don't know, get it, girl. Oh, yeah, I get it, girl.